Come, all you moonshiners, if you want.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Again, I'm your humble host, and we're here again to share. So, if you get an opportunity, of course, comment, subscribe, share us with your friends, and all of that other stuff. So, here's an update. Today is a special day. We've got a treat for you. We're going to actually run that G-Still, that 50 liter, that amazing piece of equipment. Before we get to that, I want to give you a real quick update. This is the cracked corn that I did yesterday, it's, if you listen carefully, you can hear it ferment. And it took about an hour for it to get started. So it's a real healthy environment, and it's fermenting its butt off right now. So, and I did add 5 pounds of sugar to each one, actually 6 pounds of sugar to each one. So I had to raise that gravity up high enough to make it really beneficial to actually go through the rest of this process. Now, what I did was, I'll share this with you. I went to Walmart and I got a set of these colanders. Matter of fact, they look like this. There's 3 of them that come together. And I think I paid like 20 bucks for these. A little pricey, but by golly, they're really valuable. This fits directly in the top of a bucket, and there's the handles that holds it, so you can pour all your mash in there and collect your grain here. It just makes it easier to separate the grain. Most of you are probably already doing that, but for those who haven't tried that yet, it's a good way to do it. Now, in that grain separation, in anticipation of a future video coming that I want to do on a sour mash, I did save all of the grain that I did the fermentation on. See, because you can do it both ways. You can ferment on the grain, or you can ferment off the grain. I tend to like to ferment off the grain in order to to me it's a cleaner fermentation. But I did do some fermentation on the grain, and that's when I did that corn and rye. So, and I thought to myself, wow, I'm going to save this. And I wasn't thinking clearly, evidently, because I've got it sitting out there, and it's been out there for, almost 2 weeks now. Well, guess what? When you ferment on the grain, what you have left is a lot of residual alcohol. You know what that alcohol does? It makes that almost impervious to about anything else. And if you're trying to sour the mash, the only way to sour the mash is to let it sour. And with alcohol in there, it won't do that. So I've got a big old bucket of the old grain, all the grain that's just still sitting there, and you open it up, you can smell the alcohol, but it just won't sour. There you go. So what I did with this, since I'm going to do now, I'm fermenting off the grain. That means I pulled the grain out before fermentation. So now that grain still has some residual sugars in it. Remember we talked about that yesterday, and that, you know what that environment is? Environment is prime for other stuff to get in there to actually sour it. So we're going to do that, and then of course we'll have some dunder from another run, and we'll make a sour mash eventually, shortly. All right, let's get on to, when I come back, we're going to have our G-Still set up right here. I have this place cleaned up, and we're going to start walking through this, and I'm going to show you just how amazing that thing is. Well, what about that? That's one heck of an introduction. That's an update on what we've already done and a prelude to what we're getting ready to take care of, which is running the still. We're going to run this thing today. And I've chosen, we're going to run it in pot still mode so we can show you some of its amazing features. My other option would be to run it in a pure rectification and pump out 95 to 96% pure alcohol, but I don't want to do that yet. I want to run this pot still mode because what I've got in here is I've got that corn rye, and we're going to run that out. We're going to try to make ourselves a little bit of like a Texas whiskey maybe. This will take us just a little while, and I'm going to show you this step by step. Okay, once I get this set and we get rolling, here's how we're going to do this. Well, of course, I'll use the touchpad. You already know that. And since we're not going to use the filtration device that's on the side here, we're going to bypass that completely. So we'll tell it, no, we're not going to use the filter. So this control valve will never turn on, allowing it to go through there. We're going to collect everything right here. So what we'll start with is we'll start with our foreshots. Then we'll go to the heads after stabilization. And then there'll be another stabilization period. And of course, there'll be some more heads. Now, once that's complete, our touchpad's going to tell us it's time to collect the hearts, change your jar, and we'll change the jars out right here, and then we'll hit go or continue. And of course, we'll start collecting our hearts. Now it's time to turn on the power. So this is the screen that shows up, and we have our options. We have pure alcohol, which would be 95% ABV, or we have the simple pot still. And of course the settings. Now I've already gone through the settings and set some parameters that I like. So it's really helpful if you have a firm understanding of the distillation process. So we're going to collect simple pot still. There we go. We have two selections here. We either got standard foreshots collection or precise foreshots and heads collection. And we'll select that. This gives us an opportunity to change the values of where we want all of that to take place. We're going to leave ours the way they are. Then we got the end. Are we going to use the charcoal filtration? Yes or no? Remember? No. Is there a batch in the boiler? Yes, there is. Our batch is heating up. That's as simple as it is to get started. Now, this will give us a timer to let us know how long it's going to take to heat up. Here's our batch temperature, 79.5 degrees, and we're running off of 5 kilowatts of power right now. So we'll come back in a few minutes, and as we make progress, at any time during this, you just push this to see this display button here. You can go into setup any time while this is running and change the settings. We'll go to display. And this displays all the parameters that the G-Still is looking through. We have column top temperature, column output temperature, needle valve opening, then of course the batch temperature, column stabilization temperature, and then the target azeotrope temp. What is that? You know, when you take two substances and put them together, the boiling point of that mixture, that azeotrope blend, will always be a little lower than the lowest. So what it's going to do, it's going to figure out what is the azeotrope temp for proper vaporization. And once it does that, out of the stabilization, it'll list that, and that's the target temperature that it will always try to achieve. On to bigger and better things. Tank pressure, column bottom temp, and heating power. What more do you need? Let's go back. Well, here's our first update. And you can see now we're at 130 degrees. We've been on for 10 minutes. So we're getting there. Let's give it some more time. All right, now we're back. We're at 15 minutes, and we're now at 152 degrees, and we're still using 5 kilowatts. Let's look at the display for all the parameters. Now you can see how my parameter column temp, column output, our batch temperature, column stabilization temp, all these things are starting to change. Now this needle valve opening will change when it actually starts the distillation. Wow, look at the spread between the top of the column and the bottom of the column. It's going to take a while for this temperature to increase. There, did you hear that? See, it turned on the water, so now the process is starting. Standard heads collection. Let's watch this. It appears to have stopped. So you see that? That's all the foreshots, and it's in its stabilization mode now. We got 56 seconds left. There's our stabilization temperature, 170.7. See, we're only working on 2 kilowatts of power right now. It's like a, what's that, a 2,000 watt element. All right, look at bottom column temp, top the column temp. You see that difference between those two? We're going to try, the system's going to maintain this in the mid 80s. There's our column output temperature. And shortly, we're going to determine our target azeotrope that will save, and through everything else, it will maintain that temperature and produce an exquisite product. 15 seconds to go. There it is. Manually adjust valve and collect between 0 to 3 drops of heads. Second save. Remember position. Right, here we got 52 seconds left for the collection of our heads. And at the end of that period, you'll see it'll go to the next step. And we'll be here to show you that. All right, we're at 10 seconds now. Let's look at our display. 170 degrees at the output. Let's, look at that. Column stabilization. All right, we'll give her 10 minutes, and once stabilized, we should have an azeotrope temperature, and we'll be collecting distillation. Okay, just one more time, I want to show you on the left is our foreshots, and on the right are the heads. Now we're waiting on stabilization, and it's collection time. All right, now a quick update. We're at almost 45 seconds away from the column stabilization to be complete. There's our stabilizing temperature and our heating power. We're still at 2,000 watts. That's 2 kilowatts. That's the equivalent of a 2,000 watt element. Now I've got 11 gallons in here, and we're going to find out. I'll have some more information here for you shortly. But we're still waiting on our target azeotrope temp. And we'll have that here shortly. It's time for us to collect hearts. Okay, let's talk about production level. I'm about ready to change out my third quart at 35 minutes exactly. Now, you do the math, that's the production level. So far, 3 quarts in 35 minutes. All right, we're at 53 minutes, 50% strength, and I've got 1.5 gallons a quart. So, and you know my rule, I usually stop it, and it's at 201 degrees, and it's 50%, so I'm going to stop the process. Because you know, I normally stop at 100 proof. There we are, we're stopping the process. Okay, we hit the OK button. Test. Right. Column cleaning. So we're going to do a column rinse. And we're going to set this one for, like 3 minutes. Because I'm getting ready to run another run in this when we're done. Wants me to make sure the valve's open. The valve for that is open. And there it goes. So we got a 3-minute rinse happening, and it's draining. Okay, now that's the end of it. I've run this, and we've actually gone through the cleaning process. So, and everything's been drained out. What I'll do now is I'll just wheel this back into the other room and store it until I'm ready to use it again here in just a little bit. Remember, it's got an option to do a boil clean, so I could boil and clean it for storage. But I just wanted to rinse it out real quick, and that's all. It does it all by itself. So if you got any questions, let me know. Until then, happy distilling.